What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd podcast, doing something a little bit different. We're going to be going mailbag, voicemail. There hasn't been a whole lot going on. I guess yesterday Mets Twitter went a little bit crazy with the whole Juan Soto Instagram saga, which we will address at some point because it was just what a complete and utter amount of nonsense that was. But Twitter, get your clicks, everybody. Congratulations. You're becoming what you hated at one point. That being said, we have a lot of questions from Twitter. You guys gave us a ton of replies. Appreciate you. If you want to get involved in the next one, follow us on our social media at Mets'd on Twitter, Instagram. We do voicemails on Instagram, so we have a bunch of those as well. If you're watching us on YouTube, Mets'd podcast, we appreciate you. We've been gaining a ton of subscribers recently. The channel's been popping, so thank you guys all for the support. This is a little bit more of a old schooly episode rather than like YouTube focused, hyper aggressive and all ADHD like, but we're excited to talk some Mets baseball with you and a little more heart to heart. But James, big weekend for your Ohio State Buckeyes. How you feeling?
I feel fine. I mean, Indiana has no business being on the field with a team like Ohio State.
It's true.
It's like the biggest thing with college football is they have the Buds blue chip ratio, which is the ratio of like how many really good players are on your team. Ohio State leads the country with 90% of players on the roster with the blue chip ratio. Indiana was 4%. It was never a contest, and Indiana should be in the playoff, but they're going to get pistol whipped by whoever they play.
Yeah, I mean they're going to get smoked, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We had to give you a little college football, of course. We still love it out here. We've got a lot of questions. Is there anyone in particular you want to start with, James?
Yes, we should start with the Juan Soto Instagram saga, 100%.
Yeah.
This was asked from Adam Darbell and Graydon Lamon. The gist of both of the questions were, is there anything to what happened on Saturday, Sunday with Juan Soto's Instagram? And I really have to say, I apologetically say absolutely not. The whole drama started, for those of you who are not perpetually online like me, Mark, and most of the Mets'd fan base here, that Alex Cohen was following Juan Soto, and Juan Soto follows Francisco Lindor and liked his Instagram post that went up yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever it was, said like nothing but smiles. I want to give everyone like something to say right now. If you're a Mets fan, you've ever tagged the Mets or Alex Cohen in anything on Instagram, a story, a post, just anything with ever talking about the Mets and physically tagging them, go on your Instagram and check if Alex Cohen follows you. Because Alex Cohen, I checked before this, she follows 7,411 people. And here's the kicker. In addition to Juan Soto, she follows 25 other people named Juan in her Instagram. So there's crazy. 26 Juans that she's following alone. It does. I wish it did matter, but sadly, I think it matters so little that she follows him.
Yeah. I would love for it to make a difference. I'd love for that to be like, wow, this is some inside scoop a couple days early, but there's no way. There's plenty of people I follow on Instagram. There's plenty of people you follow on Instagram. Like, it's just like, it means nothing. I can follow a pretty girl on Instagram. I have never spoken a word to her in my life. Like, I don't know who she is. I think the whole trying to, and this is part of like the world in the game. Everybody's trying to get clicks because Juan Soto, Mets, like it's hot. This is the hot thing to talk about in baseball when literally nothing else is going on. And for a lot of people on Twitter, this is a good way to help build up their account, help get a little bit more notoriety, a little bit more clout. And if you are the first one to this, people are going to run with it because that's how the internet works. But this means absolutely nothing. I mean, we've seen the past players follow, unfollow. Mark Vientos liked the post last year when it was Rhys Hoskins hitting the home run off the Mets early on, and then he unliked. Like, there's just...
Remember Luis Angel Acuna did that too?
Yeah, like there's so much nonsense. And also, a lot of people aren't always the only person on their Instagram. Like, Alex Cohen probably has someone on her Instagram, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I'd say especially billionaires probably not completely running these accounts by themselves. And again, Alex Cohen follows 7,411 people.
So many people.
That is so many people. I don't know how many more people Instagram will even allow you to follow. I've seen in the past that she's made posts being like, I'm really sorry, guys. I really want to follow you all, but Instagram has capped my follows. It's just not a realistic thing. So while I wish it did mean something, and again, shout out to everybody out there trying to build up the aggregator accounts or trying to build up your spot in Mets Twitter. I saw a couple of these tweets about Soto get to 500,000, 1 million impressions.
Good for them.
Make it over to Yankees Twitter, getting fights with those guys. Like, that's fun. That's what this time of year is all about. It's all about nonsense, rumors, a bunch of jargon, but it means absolutely nothing. And there's not a better chance of Juan Soto being a Met today as there was a week ago. In fact, it might be worse just because I don't know.
It is super funny though. Like, you tweet his name and you can just get like crazy impressions. Juan Soto will sign with blank 125,000. Like, it goes, and that's what's everybody's pushing. That's what's rolling.
Even look at our YouTube channel. Look at the last 5 videos we've done. I think Juan Soto was in the thumbnail for 4 of them. And which one do you guys think did the worst out of those 5? The one that didn't have his face in it.
I tweeted the name Juan Soto. It got like 100K impressions. Just Juan Soto, the name. Like, he's got such pull right now in the baseball world. So unfortunately, I think it means absolutely nothing. That being said, I'll never forget his post. This is more interesting. His post where he took the picture at Citi Field and he's like, "This place feels like home," or "I love it here," or something like that. That to me has got a little bit more stock, a little more stock in that than Alex Cohen following him.
Yeah, shout out to boy Chris Simon for taking that picture too of him just looking at it.
I also thought it was funny too. People were like, Soto's now following JD Martinez. He's not on the Mets. I don't know why that you would include him as the group of guys for the Mets players.
Also, he definitely already followed him. I think the one thing I thought was interesting was that he did like Francisco Lindor's most recent post. They hadn't liked any of his other posts. I went back and checked.
I will say Soto's also super active though on social media, like sneaky super active. Because remember when we were doing the podcast with the team, I tweeted about Juan Soto like winning the Gold Glove, and he liked my tweet like because it was super sarcastic. And then the tweet after that was talking about how if only the Nationals had 2 generational outfielders, like think about how good they would be. So he's definitely active, and I know he like watches like Instagram reels and will like those things every once in a while too. So he's out.
Well, at the end of the day, he's 26 years. He's 26-year-old dude, just like all of us. He's just scrolling Instagram reels. And the other funny thing about that with Soto, like the rumors were that he just met Francisco Lindor at this meeting. I'm sure that he's spent time with Lindor before, like he's seen him in passing. There's those videos that go around of like him and Lindor talking to each other on the field. This might have been the first time he actually sat with him and had like a real conversation. I'm sure they dapped up, exchanged Instagrams. That's what you do when you meet someone like that you work with that's a little more accomplished than you, that maybe you'll work with one day. Yeah, let's exchange. I'll like your next post for sure.
They keep our boy out of the All-Star game, so it's not like they can meet there. Like it's
no, of course not.
Yeah, the Lindor rhetoric is hopefully over. All right, we got another question for you guys here. This one is going to be from Sam, and Sam asks if there's any non-tender guys that we like. I'll start it off with I like Kyle Finnegan. I think he'd be a nice arm to have in the bullpen. That was one of the bigger names. Jordan Romano, too, was another big reliever name. I think Romano's got way more injury risk, but I think that will also play into his price. But when he was healthy, he was a really good reliever for the Blue Jays for a couple seasons. So I'd take a look at those two guys. I mean, they're probably the 2 best arms right now.
Totally. We're just coming off for a while of him not being healthy. I like Finnegan too, because I think Finnegan just has a super duper obvious adjustment. He threw 68% fastballs last year and it just did okay. So I think if he just spams more sliders, split fingers, 4-seamers, I'm sure next team, whether it's the Mets or somebody else, gets him on a cutter, gets him on a 2-seam. I think that'll help. I love Austin Voth. I think he's got.
I told you this weekend, I'll give you Austin Voth if Eric Fetty dies. So
yeah, that's fair. Well, I mean, no, but different roles. Yeah, no, of course not. Different roles. I mean, Voth last year as a reliever in the Mariners had a 1.04 whip. He has a good slider. He has a good curveball. He has a fine fastball. Like, he's just all the makings of a very solid reliever. Also, shout out our boy Rob. He was like, how long till Hobie Milner's a Met? I think Hobie Milner almost guaranteed to be a Met.
Feels like, that's a
so easily fits the need for a lefty. Another good reclamation project, Adbert Alzolay. 2 years ago, he was one of the most electric relievers in baseball. I think he has the cutter and the 2-seamer, if I remember right, which is something that the Mets pitching development loves. Under the radar one, I kind of love Ray Kerr. Do you know Ray Kerr from the Braves?
Ooh, the lefty, right?
Yes, lefty with a big curveball and an upper 90s fastball. I really do not know why the Braves let him go. I know he struggled a lot with his command and some health in the past, and he's already 30 years old. But Ray Kerr, from the lefty, throws 95, 96. He has wicked whiff rates. He has a disgusting curveball, and he's messed around with both the cutter and the splitter. So I think that Ray Kerr is a name that I would watch to see which team picks him up, because I think there's a very moldable type block of clay here in Ray Kerr, someone who can come up and be a really good contributing player.
I'm going to just I'm going through the list right now of some guys that just names I didn't even realize. Royber Salinas, didn't he throw 100? Wasn't he a guy who used to throw gas? I think they got him in the Oakland A's trade, the Braves. He was he was non-tendered.
Here's another one too. Jacob Webb threw gas, famously hit Kevin Pillar in the face, but turned into a pretty useful reliever the last few years with the Orioles. Luis Patino, I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for Luis Patino.
Dylan Tate, is that Orioles Dylan Tate?
Yeah, that's the Orioles Dylan Tate. He's had a bad couple of years, but probably still something to do in there. JT Chargois, funky righty. You can do something with that.
Brent Honeywell, we saw him in the playoffs. He's a major league pitcher.
Maybe he's that you're using that lightly. Wasker Yanoa, the Braves also non-tendered. He also there's a fastball and slider in there that can get some people out somewhere along the line.
Colin Poche,
Patrick Sandoval as a 1-year rehab option because he has an arm injury right now. It's always been it's just a changeup that's pulling him around, but I think that you could probably coax some more out of that.
I know he's had a bad couple of years, but Wilmer's brother, also named Wilmer Flores, non-tendered. Interesting. I know he threw in the mid 90s, so something to look at.
Enyel De Los Santos as well. He had a really good year. Wasn't it 2 years ago for the Yankees? And before that, he was quite good on the Guardians.
Yeah, you like Enyel a lot.
He has one of the deepest pitch mixes for any reliever in baseball. I've always liked him for that reason. You said Poche. Ian Jabot, he's had some bad years and some arm trouble from the Reds, but there's still kind of some electricity in that arm. And Cal Quantrill, I don't know what the fuck the Colorado Rockies are doing.
I don't know either.
to not trade Cal Quantrill at the deadline and then just let him go for nothing as a legitimately useful major league starting pitcher with a good splitter. Crazy thing that happened.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say is, I guess just to kind of put an end to the non-tender talk, the Mets non-tendered Grant Hartwig, Alex Ramirez, it's over, which is crazy. It sucks that we never got to see that guy turn into anything because he had the opportunity to be really special. Never was. And Alex Young, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if there's a chance that all these guys could end up at some point back with the Mets, just not on the 40-man. Because that's also part of this too. This is a 40-man roster crunch. And at the end of the day, you're okay with losing these guys if you have to, but they could return not on the 40-man.
Yes. But Alex Ramirez, that was just, he's minor league. It just got cut. It's not like, it's just.
No, he's like done. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I don't know if you mentioned it, but that was Sam who asked that question, the boy Sam for the non-tenders.
Shout out Sam. All right. Next up, what do you got, James? Pick one.
Next up, I got one here from Try Then Teach.
Okay.
What do you think the chances of signing Soto and Alonso are? I want Soto bad because of the rare young generational talent, and Pete in part because he's also good, but I'm also sentimental and would love to see him play with the Mets for his whole career. And just to piggyback on that, our boy Alvarez, Met for life, violence, gun to your head. Who's playing first base for the Mets next year? So I guess this is like a two-part question. And we talked about both a little bit, but can we sign both Juan Soto and Pete Alonso? And who plays first base for the Mets next year?
Totally can sign both. I'm putting it at 25%. My rationale being 50% on Soto, 75% on Pete. I think if you technically take 75% of 50, that's 25%. I think technically. No, it's not. That's 50%. But I'm going to go 25%. I think it's mostly that Soto is the biggest question mark. As much as I think the Mets will sign Soto, like I feel weirdly good about it, and that's the worst thing that could ever happen.
I do not. So it's good balancing out.
This is where it helps is the gun to head. I think Pete Alonso is the Mets first baseman. I don't know who's going to be able to truly give him the contract that he thinks he's going to get. And I think the Mets evaluation of him will end up just being fair. And they both shake hands and say, all right, 5 years. See you next time.
I agree, but also because more so for Alonso playing first base for the Mets on opening day, because I'm not. My confidence in Juan Soto signing with the Mets is shrinking rather than growing. It's waning rather than waxing. Just all of the positive news. It can't be this easy. It literally can't be this easy.
Though? Just about us?
Like all the little tidbits, the crumbles, all the John Heyman stuff, all the Jim Bowden stuff, like all these little things. Like he really likes the Mets. Like the Mets have the biggest offer on the table. Everyone's saying like it feels like this, it feels like that. It just simply can't be this easy. And one, because the Yankees can't be this stupid. They cannot let him walk out the door. They have to give him everything. And also, I think the Red Sox are much more of a threat than anyone's admitting.
Man.
That's just a me thing. I had the same premonition 5 years ago with Kevin Durant to the Nets. You could ask my college friends. We were with Ryan the other night. I invented that take. I was like, that January, I was like, I think he's going to go to the Nets. It seems like it's such a good story. Not a good story for us, but like for the Red Sox to watch Mookie Betts walk out the door and then like right all the wrongs as they have all the prospects they spent the last 5 years developing, ready to come up and do something crazy. I think that we are the three teams in the driver's seat collectively. And I think the other two, weirdly, this is going to sound crazy, might have more to lose than the Mets in this case.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
And that swings us back on Pete. Also, we had a conversation off air about how much we think Alex Bregman is now going to wind up with the Washington Nationals.
Yeah.
So him going to the Nationals, and then depending on what the Yankees wind up doing with Soto or without Soto, I don't know how they get the money for Pete with the rest of the holes in that roster. It's kind of just the Mets versus the Astros. I could just see Pete being like, I would want to stay with the Mets.
I think there will be a sneaky mystery team for Pete at some point that we're not thinking of, but I think it's hard to tell because everybody's waiting on Juan Soto as well. Like, I think once Soto signs, everybody else is going to start moving a little bit, but I really do. I think 25%. What'd you give for your percent that it happens?
Oh, for both?
Yeah.
10%.
This guy. That's all right.
I don't think it's that likely.
It's good. He cooled me off a little bit. Take me down a notch.
I'm saying. All right,
Bella.
next one. You okay? What?
We're going to do Bella, right? Bella's the next one up.
I thought you went,
No, I think I went Bella. I think I just yelled it. I screamed it. I don't know why I screamed it, but shout out Bella, one of our biggest fans. Prospect we're most and least willing to trade. Most willing to trade? I'm going to say a name that people are going to hate. Luis Angel Acuna. I think he's the guy that I'm willing to trade the most, just because I think the ceiling is not as high as people think it is. And I think the floor could be a little bit lower than people think it is. And it's not that I think he's going to be a bad player by any means, but he's a free swinger. I don't know how that's going to play over a full season. And he's a second baseman, truthfully, on this team. Like, it doesn't really, I think he's good. I want him here. But if you're asking me a prospect that I'm most willing to trade, that's like actually a prospect, like I'd trade Kevin Parada for a bag of balls, but like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, we also got another question later on about, is Luis Angel Acuna a serious answer to play center field. I think just based on how much he played there in the minors and how good the instincts seem to be, I think he actually is legitimate there. I know we didn't see him there at all last year because the Mets needed the infield help when he came up, much more in the outfield help. Bella also said that what prospect would you guys be the least willing to trade away?
I
think that's an interesting question.
Oh, man, least willing to trade away.
Because I think we have to think about like what this prospect could actually get you back in a trade versus how good we think they're going to be.
True. Yeah, like I mean, Jett, weirdly, I'd be willing to trade, but it's because I know he's going to be a part of a big package. Like he's a crochet guy. I think Sproat I think that's kind of the guy right now where I'm like, I want to see what he's got. Like we've seen such a meteoric rise from him that I want to see it play out a little bit more before I decide whether or not he's a tradable guy.
Mine's weirdly Nolan McLean.
Okay, yeah, you love him.
Because I don't think we've seen the full throttle of the meteoric rise yet, so I don't think that he can actually get that much back. Where I think if you include Sproat in a trade, you can kind of grab anyone you want. Like Sproat and Jett gets you Crochet easily.
Yeah, and I like
that might be a bit of an overpay.
Yeah,
so I think McLean is the guy where there's still a lot more to be done on top of what he can give you, and then we're probably 6 months away from him peaking in value, where Sproat probably just peaked in value. Then he debuts, he goes down a little bit, then he gets good, he goes up a little bit. That's just the pitching prospect curve. McLean's the one where I see, because Tong I think also has shot past Nolan McLean too, Jonah Tong, because he was so good at such a young age at such a low level. McLean's the guy who I still think has the most ceiling versus the least actualized value yet.
Okay, yeah, I like how you're thinking about that too. It's kind of almost like if you're going from the hitter side, like maybe a guy like Jesus Baez is someone you don't want to trade just yet because there's been so much potential, but he hasn't put a full season underneath his belt yet.
It's our guy Boston Barrow.
That's the guy.
Because as good as Jesus Baez is, he's still like a 5'9" corner infielder.
Yeah, true.
Like if he can't play shortstop in the lower levels, he'll never really have that much trade value, despite the fact that he hits the ball so hard and doesn't strike out. Where Barrow looks like he could be just a monster. Yeah. Like he has the size, everything's prototype. He has like the pedigree. He's the guy who like 6 months from now again could be like a meteoric riser. So I don't know. I'd be much less willing to use like him as a throw-in.
Okay,
than if I was using Jesus Baez as a feature piece.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. I can get behind all that thought process there. That makes sense.
Yeah. And another similar question from Death Star Chris. Would you use Ryan Clifford as a trade chip?
I think it really matters if Pete Alonso's here or not. I think that's because, like, I know Clifford, I think, is technically played outfield, but I think he's a first baseman.
He's a first baseman,
from what it looks like. And that's like almost like the Lucas Duda playing outfield kind of thing. The thing that scares me about Clifford, and I know we're not an average podcast, but I do get scared when I see someone hitting 220 in AA. Like that does scare me. I know he gets on base at a 380 clip. Like that's the part that makes me not care as much about the lack of contact, but we just know the pitching is so good at the major league level. And we've seen the hard jump that people have had that have hit 300 in AAA. And then they get to the major league level and they can't hit a lick. Jared Kelenic. Like that to me scares me a little bit when there is some bat to ball issues on a consistent basis.
Yeah, similarly, but a little bit different. There's a lot of research that tells us that strikeout rate as you go through the minors is pretty sticky. Like if you're a guy striking out 25, 30% of the time in the minor leagues, that's just going to get a little bit worse as the pitching gets better, which makes tons of sense. But the walk rate is something that's not necessarily sticky. Where if you're walking 15, 18, 19, 20% in the minor leagues, that's not exactly a skill that they think will transfer to the majors because the pitching, the off-speed, the location, the command is so much better. And that was kind of the thing that held up Ryan Clifford's full season line last year in AA, even as a 20-year-old in AA in 100 games, 16% walk rate, 29% strikeout rate. I get scared of that walk rate. And then if it's like winds up being like an 8% walk rate and a 30% strikeout rate in the major leagues, that winds up as like a 200 average, like a 280 on base.
Yeah.
That's suddenly not that playable. He has to demonstrate, and he can, again, because the other thing that's even probably more important than any of these stats is just simply your WRC plus in the minor leagues.
Yes.
And there's research that says that you can basically put 20 on top of your WRC plus for how many years below the level you are.
Okay.
So Ryan Clifford is about 3 years younger than the league average player in AA, and he had a 130 WRC plus. So you could almost be like 185, 190 for Ryan Clifford's WRC plus. So just that alone, it's like, all right, now you swing back in. But he's still a very weird prospect. The lot can change in either direction with Ryan Clifford, just based on how much bat to ball he makes and how much less he can chase pitches out of the strike zone and just bring that strikeout number down.
And he's super in the conversation of if the right trade, if he's part of the Garrett Crochet trade, like, see you later, dude, you're heading to Chicago.
Well, same exactly why we got him from the Astros.
Yeah.
If it's part of the right deal, yeah. Like they were trying to win a World Series with Justin Verlander. They still thought it was like a top 20 pitcher in the league. You make that trade.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
All day, every single time. All right. Hill knows because we got some other guys that are going to be eligible for the Rule 5 draft. Dominic Hamill or Mike Vassell in the Rule 5 draft. Do you think either of those guys get taken? They were not protected. For those of you who were not aware, they were not protected and put on the 40-man. Happened last week. It didn't make sense to talk about in an episode. Better now. I don't see either of these getting taken. I think Hamill's the more likely option if there is one. But the thing that makes it so hard with the Rule 5 draft is you have to be on the major league roster the entire season. Otherwise, he gets sent back to the team. And I'm sure you'll talk about him a little bit more. Like, Vassell's not a major league pitcher right now. He is a depth starter at this point, and I don't think there's a team that can really afford for what is like a 25-year-old pitcher to like maybe be terrible at the major league level. And then with Hamill, it's probably as a reliever, and even then, is he ready for that? I don't know. The Mets probably would have used these guys already.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. I think Hamill's slightly more likely just because he has an amazing breaking ball, so you can squint and be like, I'll make him a reliever this year and just see what he can give me. Especially thinking about teams that are horrible, like the White Sox, maybe a team like the Athletics that's not exactly horrible, but they have spots in their rotation open. Teams like the Rockies, which would be so sad if any of these guys wound up there. But Vassell just does have he just has the ability to throw so many different breaking pitches that I made this comp last year. It was what's his name? The guy from I can't remember his name now. The guy from the Nationals who busted out this year.
Jake Irvin, yeah.
Just to come up with a very mid fastball that you kind of want to hide behind a curveball, a slider, a changeup, which Vassell has all of those pitches. I don't know if a team is willing to take the risk on Mike Vassell because the upside is like a 4-star there.
Yeah, there's not
That's
much
kind
upside.
of the best case scenario here. That's like the 80th, 90th percentile outcome. Where Hamill, you could probably squint and see a 3-star just because the breaking balls are so ferocious. And the fastball does have the good fastball traits before he gets tired. I think he's much more likely. I would be shocked if anyone took Vassell.
I think there's also a lot behind like this move and about these guys as prospects. The fact that the Mets didn't even think it seemed like to protect them. And they've also haven't been able to move in trades at all the last couple seasons. I just think there's not, for the kind of players that they are, I just think there isn't a lot of value right now.
No, totally. And I think it also says a lot about just where this front office is going. Like, a lot of people want all the guys from last year's team to be re-signed and like be a super happy, fun team again.
I can do it.
Where David Stern's just like, Alex Ramirez, I didn't bring you here, and now you're gone. Vassell and Hamill, I didn't bring you here, you guys are gone. Like, whenever there's new executive, I feel like in any sport, new coaches in sports where the coaches have more to do with player movement, it's just get your guys in. Get the guys that you've been molding. Because you don't want to, I say this to you all the time with the Orioles thing. You don't want guys, you don't have to waste time in training and development to undo bad habits. That's something that a lot of player development guys talk about. It's like, we want to give you good habits from day one. So now you have our habits. We know the habits are good. Then you'll progress as quickly as possible, where these guys might not have had that. They did come in the first iteration of the new Mets.
Yes.
But now we're in the second iteration of the new Mets, the one that hopefully slingshots us way past the 21st century. Because we just got to the 21st century. So now we got to keep going past that.
Yes. Tyrone Taylor Stan asks us, what's more likely, a Jett Williams debut in late 25 or early 26? He's my favorite prospect. Curious to hear what you guys take. What do you think there, James?
I think if he's on the team, like if they don't trade him, I think that we don't see him before 2026, truthfully. He's barely played in the upper minors. He has, literally. Like, I think it's under 100 at bats between AA and AAA. I'll get the number exactly right now.
And he basically lost this entire year because of the injury. Yes.
Like, I know he got to those levels, which is like, all right, maybe he will play there soon, but it was in 2023, it was 26 plate appearances in AA. This year, it was 100 plate appearances in AA and 30 plate appearances in AAA. So he has 150 plate appearances in the upper minors. That's nothing. That's a third of a season. He just has to get a lot more reps and a lot more time there.
And his numbers at those levels weren't great either.
No, not really at all. He's never been above average player at AA. He's actually been quite bad there, about 30% worse than league average. Also, he's still 20 years old, so it's not a big deal. But the other thing for Jett is that, and you guys heard them talk about this in the interview we did with him on this show, he's been most comfortable in his life playing shortstop, and he's not going to play shortstop if he ever gets to the Mets.
Yeah,
so I think a lot. Yeah, he said it out loud to us. So I think a big part of this will be him playing center field, and him showing he can play center field on a regular basis if we don't trade him.
And there is no rush. There's no rush to bring Jett Williams up right now. Absolutely not. Like, wait until he's ready. Make him make you call him up. Right now, if you were to calling him up, it would just be like insane.
Especially because right now, Acuna is basically very similar to Jett, but a year ahead of him, year and a half ahead of him progress. I think Luis Angel Acuna has had like 800 plate appearances in the upper minors.
Yeah.
Which is a ton.
It's a lot, yeah.
But I think you just need that unless you're dominating, ripping the cover of the ball, unless you're doing the guy from the Rays, who I'm never going to say his name again, or unless you're doing things like Jackson Holliday was doing this year. Luis Angel Acuna has 170, 400, 170, 590.
Ton.
closing in. He's over 1,000 plate appearances between AA and AAA.
Yeah,
Like that, you need Jett Williams has 150. You just need reps to get better, especially when you don't really have a defensive home technically yet.
No. All right, next one. Ryan Anzalone or Anzalone. I'm not sure if you're like Alex, the safety. How many relievers on the open market do you think have the stuff/ability to become a starter? Example, Reynaldo Lopez, Jordan Hicks. Should the Mets be willing to do those signings? I would want Jeff Hoffman if so. So, James, you're that guy. I'm going to let you handle this one.
Yeah. Sadly, I think Hoffman's kind of the only one. I checked a lot of these guys out before. The big thing, if you want to move a pitcher from the bullpen to the rotation, make them a starter, is that you want to make sure they have really good velocity, because no matter what, that velocity is going to take a few steps down when they come to the minors. Reynaldo Lopez is averaging 99 in the bullpen. He averaged about 95 as a starter. Hicks was averaging 101 in the bullpen, and he had some starts where he couldn't even get above 94 this year. It goes away quickly. Hoffman's on that line because he was like a 96.5, 97 guy. He goes down to 94 with a fastball with really good shape. That's still probably a plus fastball. It gets you through an outing. Besides him, it was really hard to find another guy. The one guy who I think is weird, because I think he's just some of the Hoffman was such a good reliever, but I think it would be possible, I think, for Carlos Estevez to be a starter.
Whoa, really?
I think that'd be crazy because
he's just
the fastball's so good that he's a starter and it could work. Because no one talked about Jordan Hicks being a starter before. The Giants just did that nowhere last year.
True, he is also a lot younger, but yeah.
Totally. The thing about Estevez is that he would need to throw way, way, way more curveballs. He only threw like 7 curveballs last year. He would just need to, I'm saying, but like he would need to be like, this is a pitch I'm going to throw now. Because then the other guys I was looking at was like Jonathan Loizaga, but it's a weird approach against lefties, and it's been a while and injuries with him, so it probably doesn't happen. I look at my guy Ian Jabot, but the fastball velocity has gone too far down in the last few years. Like Caleb Ferguson's a guy who has enough pitches to do against both sides because early only throwing 94 miles an hour. Same with Daniel Colombe. Like, because it's such a fine line to draw when you want to be able to do that. You have to be sitting 97 in the bullpen. You kind of need at least 4 pitches that you're willing to throw, and you probably need a walk rate that was under 9% maximum if you want to make this jump.
I'm just gonna throw out a couple names at you. Jacob Junis. You think he could ever make the flip back?
Yeah, but we've seen him be a starter. It's just not that good. Like, it's not like, because these other guys are really good relievers now. Where Jacob Junis
I see what you're saying.
A sponge.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of names. It's a very reliever market.
Yeah, like, again, I was like, I mean, maybe like Jalen Beek can do it again too, but I just don't think he'll be that good there. Like, I just think that, like, what we saw last year from Lopez and Hicks was rare. Like, that was cool. Like,
and Lugo.
And Lugo, yeah, that's the big one, which is why I think that right now Jeff Hoffman's like, I'm going to ride this wave and try to do this as well. Like, maybe Drew Smiley, if he can get that fastball back up a little bit. Like, Lucas Sims doesn't really have a third pitch. I don't know. Like, it's hard to me to see how any of these guys can actually make that jump and make it legitimate. Ray Kerr is actually a weird one that I would lean on because he sat like 94, 95 from the left side. Like, truthfully, like, that's one where I'd be like, I can see that.
Keeping on the reliever side here, we got from Z Mets fan and from Reed as well. What are some under-the-radar relief pitchers you guys would love to sign? And Reed was talking about lefty reliever. I know we talked about Hobie Milner earlier. I'll tell you what, I'd love to have Brooks Raley back. I really would. He was so good.
Oh, me too, for sure. Colin Poche, I think, is another really good one. I just mentioned like half the weird relievers I like. I keep saying Jimmy Garcia. I like him. I think he's quite good. I think Caleb Ferguson also really revived his career last year in Houston as a lefty. I think he could be quite good there.
Is Jose Leclerc under the radar or no?
I think he's like too famous to be under the radar. Okay. But I think technically in terms of the baseball landscape, he's under the radar. Like Daniel Colombe, I think is under the radar. A lefty with just a ton of junk, who I think would be good there. Because we also had that question later on.
How to pronounce that guy's name. I don't think it's Colombe.
It's not Colombe?
I don't think so. I think it might be Kulam.
Kulam?
I'm gonna look at. I'm gonna double check it, and if I'm wrong, I apologize. Yeah, Kulam.
Danny Kulam.
Way
so
easier.
just get rid of the B. All right, whatever. Did you all say the question from Reeds like that? Last year, we clearly had a need for lefty relievers when Brooks Raley went down. What lefty relievers in the free agent or trade market do you think are realistic for this team?
Well, that's kind of why I went, like, I'd love to bring Brooks Raley back. Because I was like, that's the lefty I want. Cause, I mean, like, I don't think we're going to sign Aroldis Chapman. I don't really want him either. Like, we're not going to get Tanner Scott. Hobie Milner is probably the guy that they're looking at as a possibility.
There's another lefty. Colin Poche is another lefty we just mentioned before from the non-tender candidate.
On the trade market, like, I know Brent Suter is a Cincy guy, and he just took the option.
How slow can he keep throwing? Like, I can't do 87 miles an hour.
He was a Stearns guy, though. There's a connection there.
No, for sure. But it's just how much lower can this get to keep giving him more chances? Like, I just don't know if I can see that happening. Tyler Alexander and Richard Lovelady just have a couple semi-interesting things that they can do in terms of other lefties. Tim Meza from the Yankees, he's not really very good, but he's a lefty with a pulse.
Tim Hill,
like they're all, I know. I think they brought him back.
No, he's listed as a free agent on MLB.com.
All right, I would take Tim Hill. Tim Hill's a
Yeah.
pretty good player. I think that I think the Mets are going to go into the season with more lefties because I do agree that it got a little tight last year. But I think they were willing to do it just because again, a lot of these guys in their bullpen don't really have splits. Like Reed Garrett's good against lefties and righties. Daniel Nunez, because he has the death ball, is really good against lefties and righties. Death ball is like just the extension of the gyro side. It just kind of goes straight up and down. So I think again, it probably will be Hobie Milner, but I don't think the Mets are going to put a huge emphasis on lefties again because we just saw them go through a whole offseason last year and not do it. So I don't know why they would change.
I'm going to give you a couple other random reliever names. You tell me what you think.
Okay.
Genesis Cabrera. Has he got anything?
I think the stuff fell back hard last year.
Okay. Because I remember he had a little stretch where like, ooh.
He used to throw like 98
Yes.
last year. He still sat 96 last year. Anything tremendous happened with these pitches? He got a cutter last year too. They started throwing a ton. Stopped throwing the fastball. But he's one of those guys where it's like 80% fastballs, two-seamer, four-seamer. So it's like a color. So it's like, I don't know.
Okay.
His curveball's dropping much less year over year. That's not very good.
Here's the other two names I have for you. James Karinchak. He's got anything left in it? He's a free agent.
I mean, yeah, if we get the stuff back in the hair, like
I
might
guess,
as well.
Yeah, he was a huge cheater. I forgot about that part. Yeah.
He was much better when he was cheating, so maybe we can get him and cheat.
And I'll never give up on Amir Garrett. I'd love to bring him to the Mets.
No, Queens, baby. We need to bring Queens back to the Mets. Like that'd be a good one. There's a lot of these guys, and like we're gonna do some episodes on bargain guys like this week, and because a lot of you guys ask questions about this too, like bargain starting pitchers. We're gonna have a bargain starting pitcher episode ready for you guys on Black Friday. So apologize if you guys have to go into the office on Black Friday or you gotta do whatever, but we'll have an episode ready for you guys Friday morning. Bargain starting pitchers. Then we'll probably wind up doing bargain relievers at some point too. Maybe with that, or maybe as its own thing, small thing some other time.
All right, what's next?
Next one, I have my different tab up. Next one from from The Real Jew at Twitter. I'd love to hear a couple minutes about how good our pitching lab really is. I always hear about it, but would love to hear why it's so good. Thanks, guys. Love the pod. I think the big thing about the pitching lab is just that we have very expensive technology that not every team has access to. Eric Yeagers is one of the true architects of Driveline, like what made Driveline, how they came to be what they are, how they got to be so good, so popular, so famous, and work so well. He was kind of tasked with designing this pitching lab, and the Mets have been dumping tons and tons and tons of money on motion sensors, cameras, TrackMans, like all these
weighted
tiny
plates that Ryan Lambert was telling us about that they were using to like figure out the pressure points and everything.
The jetpack too to figure out everything. Last I think it was towards the end of spring training on The Athletic. It was March 1st last year, so middle of spring training. Tim Britton did a great piece about it. Just when you basically talked to every single Mets like AAA, quadruple A pitcher and asked them what they were doing and what was cool about the pitching lab. Drew Smith said they like when you go on there and you do your assessment, they will like strip you down into like just like your sliding shorts and attach little motion sensors to every part of your body, and you'll just start throwing and they'll track every single thing you're moving. Like, and I think the Mets have been so quiet about it because they probably just don't want other teams to know exactly what technology they have.
Yeah, we had begged to interview Eric Yeagers from the day he got hired, and then we got told we don't want him to be talking to the public.
Yes, we don't want anything to happen. But he talked to Tim Britton talked to Mike Vassell, Christian Scott, Grant Hartwig, Josh Walker, Eric Orza. Most of these guys are not on the team anymore. Drew Smith, about just like what's so cool about it. I think the most important. There was the quote here from Reed Garrett too. Imagine that.
How about that?
That's a good one. Here's the paragraph. The plan is for as many pitchers as possible to throw in the lab again this spring to get a read on how their mechanics look at the start of the season compared to the end. If things are going a little wrong, the way you have your baseline to look back at is really helpful, said reliever Reed Garrett.
That's super funny.
So like that, what this more so is like, I know it's like technology, the pitching lab, buzzwords, blah, blah, blah. The most important thing is that the Mets are investing enough money in both technology and people who work in player development that they are assessing every pitcher individually and giving every single pitcher a personalized plan based on what will work best for them. We heard that when we talked to Ryan Lambert a few months ago, that you get in there, they strap you up and they say, this is what we're going to do. And you're like, all right, cool. Actionable training methods that are very specific that you can do, and then you can keep moving on to the next thing. I think that's the crux of the pitching lab with the Mets.
Yeah, and I think also it comes down to, like you said, the Mets have someone that they believe is super smart, and I think people in baseball do as well, in Eric Yeagers. They gave him a ton of money. They're investing more money in this stuff than all the other teams.
And tons of leadership ability.
Yeah, tons of leadership ability, tons of money. And they're getting players that fit these roles that they want. They're clearly looking for very specific types of pitchers, the Mets. You've seen it the last couple drafts, especially now with David Stearns getting a draft underneath his belt. Like, there's an archetype that this team is looking for, and at the end of the day, they're trying to optimize these pitchers as best as they can, and that's really all this pitching lab is there for, is for optimization.
Yeah, I heard a quote too. Is a different article. It might have still been that Britain article about the Mets shortcomings in pitching development over the last 5 or so years. And Mark Tremato, who I think is still a scouting director. I'm not positive.
I don't know if he's one of the one who left. I don't know.
He might have been. If you could check it real quickly for me. But he basically said that they think the Mets, they think internally, and he says, like, I own this. Like, I was the director. They got a little bit too in on, oh my God, I just got a LinkedIn message. I'm looking at Eric Yeager's.
He is Blue Jays.
Yeah, so he was one of the people that left when Stearns was getting his own guys in. Basically said the Mets got too obsessed with high school pitchers, too obsessed with traits, potential, development, all this stuff. And now you've seen the last 2 drafts where Dave Stearns been here.
Almost
none. 1 draft. No, it's all college pitching now, over and over again. College pitchers with huge traits where there might be a little bit less development to do, but you're a little bit closer to a finished product with some tweaks you can make. So I think that's an interesting thing. And again, Eric Yeager spent 7 years at Driveline. He went from manager of technical development to the special assistant for pitching to the assistant director of pitching. So he was in the mud at Driveline, and he also only left Driveline for 3 years to go work with Kyle Boddy, who was the guy who started Driveline with the Cincinnati Reds. So between 2018 and to when he came to the Mets, he was either at the pitching coordinator with the Reds, or he was like one of the main people at Driveline. So we have made this pitching lab in the image of Driveline. That's very important.
Yes, because they're awesome. All right, a few more here. Got one from, when this says Conrad, is this who I think this is?
Yeah, it's Conrad.
All right, Conrad. Cunard asks us, does Blade Tinwell / Brandon Sproat have an outside chance at a rotation spot by May? Probably. I think so. Yeah, like it might even be Blade technically a little bit more, I think, just because he has more of those innings, and Sproat did hit a major snag at AAA. Like, he's going to have to really shove for that chance to be there. But I think just because Blade has had a full season and a half, I think, in AAA, there's definitely a chance that at some point you're just going to see him. You got to find out what you got with him.
Yeah, I think Blade could be a much better chance to get a spot start in May. If he starts the year good, the pitches look nice. But I think Sproat, he was on the Christian Scott timeline until he kind of got hit hard in AAA last year, so now it gets him pushed back a little bit. If he comes out guns blazing and he throws 9 starts like Christian Scott did last year between spring training, April and May, where he's dominating everybody, yeah, he probably does get a shot. It also just depends on how competitive the Mets are going to be this year. Christian Scott got to the early opportunity because the Mets rotation wasn't really that good. Yeah, I'll say it was pretty bad at the beginning of the year. So then he got a spot because it was like lightning in a bottle, and we just needed a body. David Peterson was still hurt then, so I think there's slightly less of a chance. But if I had to bet, I'd say we don't see either by June 1st, but the more likely one I think is Tidwell for a spot start rather than here's your rotation spot every 5 days.
Yeah, I mean, Tidwell is almost like more like that Tyler McGill role where it's just like up and down, up and down, up and down. Like that's what he would be. Unless he comes up and does something crazy and you're like, we can't take this guy out, but that seems less likely than it would with Sproat. Also, what a crazy long season. Christian Scott making his debut on this team. That feels like literally so long ago. That
start in Tampa Bay was so good.
That stadium doesn't exist anymore. They're never going to play baseball in that stadium again.
It's horrible.
Crazy.
Horrible's happening to them.
2 more questions?
Right. Yeah, a couple more here. So this is one from Himmelhawk that he said, this is a funny one, so get ready for this one, guys.
Okay.
Since it was not addressed last time around for some reason, given the nature of the universal fields through which excitations and interactions form all matter and energy, do you conform the Spinozist view of God's sive natura? I will say, I did take one semester.
No comment.
Well, I took 1 semester of philosophy. I think I'm kind of spiritual, so I would say, yeah, I do believe so. I think.
Wow. I think saying yes to something that you might not know what it means is crazy.
I know generally what it means is that like God surrounds us. Like nature is the world. That's basically what it is. Like that's what this view is.
It's above my
It's
pay
like
grade.
the concept. Yeah, I mean, I probably shouldn't be talking about this the podcast, but like that concept conceptually. Like God is one of us. Nature is God.
Crazy.
Nature is God.
What
That's
an
like
insane
a tree.
question to answer.
Carbon, yeah. Well, I mean, Himmelhawk asked it twice. So he came back to ask it the second time. I'll give an answer for my 1 semester of philosophy.
There you go. Yeah, I'll let you handle it, fancy boy. No comment.
Yeah, the world's all around us. Now we'll do a couple more fun questions to end this out. Mr. Dunes, in your opinion, which current Met has the most ear hair? Are there any free agents with mounting album releases available for 2025? So big two-parter.
Jose Iglesias probably has an album coming, if I had to guess. Most ear hair. Where would I go with this? I'm just thinking about the current roster. I'm gonna go Luis Torrens.
Okay, but here's the thing: ear hair is just simply an age thing.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Tried and true. So it can be just be the oldest guy on the roster. Like last year, I'm sure.
Who is the oldest guy? Oh, Adam Ottavino, I think might have him beat.
He's not on the team anymore, but
who's the oldest guy on the team?
Last year would have been JD or
Ottavino.
or Ottavino. Yeah, I think those are the two guys. Currently, I don't know the oldest guys. We don't know. We don't have. I guess we could sign Rich Hill. He'll definitely have the most ear hair if we sign him.
Yeah, Carlos Mendoza.
That would be
That's
easy.
my pick.
Yeah, Carlos Miller too. And also, I don't think any other free agents are going to come out with albums this year.
I don't
sadly.
think so. Not as talented as Jose Iglesias. That's why.
No, multi-talented. Then a couple other quick ones just to run through. Again, we got a couple questions from you guys about bargain pitchers. I know my guy Brad asked us why aren't we hearing more about Tomoyuki Sugano, a big-time Japanese pitcher who's going to come over. It's just
isn't he like 38?
Yeah, he's 38, and I think he throws like 94, but he has a lot of junk. I do actually like Sugano, but we're gonna do a bargain pitching episode this week, Black Friday. So get ready for that. And then our guy Uncle Weg, right?
Yes, Uncle Weg.
Uncle Weg asked us, "What is our go-to snack order at the gas station?"
Okay, so gummy bears. Always getting gummy bears. I'm a candy fiend, so some gummy bears. Getting a blue Gatorade, really just filling up on the sugar. A bag of chips if they got Ruffles with ridges, all about that. And then like a Jack Link's beef jerky of sorts.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, that would be a good trip.
That's a good one. So if I'm going in there, I'm always getting an Arizona green tea, the $1 can Arizona green tea. I'll never get the bottle. Never get the bottle.
Never.
If they don't have the can, I'm just not getting anything to drink. If there's no Arizona there, it's the light blue Gatorade. Has to be the light blue,
always,
the dark blue Gatorade. The Glacier
Freeze
for sure. And then I like a chip too. I usually like a spicy chip. I love a spicy chip. If they got a jalapeno Hal, it's the greatest chip on earth. I'll be all over that. But that's only bodegas, corner stores in New York. I also love chocolate, either peanut butter or peanut M&Ms. And back when I was still eating gluten, a Take 5. Take 5 Sneaky, such an underrated candy bar.
Good one, yeah.
Unbelievably good candy bar. But those are always my good. I lived next door to a gas station in college. I ate 4 Take 5s a week.
That's so many.
Every day I go home from class, but Take 5. There's nothing better.
That would get me to class. I was like, I'm going to get Chick-fil-A breakfast in the morning if I go to this morning class.
Yeah, right. But I think that's all we got for the mailbag today.
Yes, and then we have some voicemails here from the Mets'd Up people over on Instagram, right? You want to lead us there, James?
Yeah, we got a few of them. I'll play a couple now. First one is he sends us a lot of voicemails. Where is he? It's our boy Brandon. Where is it? I can't find it right now.
General? Brandon Ditchick? Yeah, General.
Yep. Got one here from Brandon. Voicemail from Brandon coming up.
Good afternoon, Mark and James. I hope all is well. I first hope you have a great Thanksgiving.
Oh, thank you.
Next, so here's my question. If the Mets unfortunately do not get Juan Soto, do you think you have to be aggressive and get Pete? If so, how many years and how much would he pay? Enjoy.
Thank you, Brandon. Very cordial, very polite. We talked about this a little in the beginning, but yeah, I think you definitely get more aggressive on Pete Alonso if you don't sign Juan Soto. You probably also just get aggressive, a little bit more aggressive on everybody. It's kind of like your recruiting hours in NCAA. Like the top recruit goes somewhere else. You give everyone a couple more hours after that. So you probably just tell Pete, here's the 5-year, $140 million deal. Let me know if you want it.
I was saying one for 35 for 135 was where I was going to go for Pete. I think that's again. I don't think he should be the top paid first baseman in baseball, but at $27 million for the 5 years, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. All right. Next voicemail from our guy Andrew.
I know the focus every offseason is on like players that we'll see on the field every day, whether it be from free agent signings or trade acquisitions. But I was wondering if there are any like coaches or managers or front office personnel that you guys have just seen around the game of baseball, like know about, that you guys would like to see on the Mets helping behind the scenes with either like player development or just like being on the roster, being a coach, being like a good, person to talk to every day to help the players out.
I will say, it's tough because this is one of the first times in a while we haven't thought about needing to get new coaches in. I feel like,
or executives,
in a few years. Like we weren't Buck fans, we weren't fans of Billy Epler. We didn't like what was going on. I think we weren't big fans of Chavez as hitting coach during the year, and I still don't necessarily agree with his philosophy. But whatever, the team played well, the offense was great. I don't think you can really get on him for that. I don't know. There's no one that is particularly coming to my mind. The only guy was when the Diamondbacks got rid of Brent Strom, but now he's with the Pirates, which also he's with the Pirates. Holy shit, that's going to be crazy.
Keep an eye on that.
He's like the original, like he's one of the greatest pitching minds ever. All the dude does is
all time
is baseball and pitching. And if you look at a lot of great pitchers, they give a lot of credit to Brent Strom. He would have been really cool, but also like Hefner's the man. So
yeah, and also at the same time, earlier this offseason, we signed Desi Druschel, the assistant Yankees pitching coach, now be our assistant pitching coach. He's apparently just really good with pitch design. That's his thing. A lot of these Yankee pitchers have picked up new pitches relatively quickly. And a lot of these Yankee pitchers who were nothing, especially relievers, went on to be very, very, very good. So
Yes.
that was the big one. Again, I think we're tight on coaches at the top right now. And David Stern says he's not going to hire another executive. So we still have him. We still have Zausmer. I think that we're just going to roll with this front office that we have. I think all the focus right now is on Juan Soto and just other players.
Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and this one comes from Yuri. Let's see what he's got here.
So I've been listening since the first episode, and I'm from the Netherlands, so I wanted to know, do you guys pay any attention to international baseball? I know the Premier 12 just finished. USA got third, I believe. So do you guys follow any of that stuff? If not, let me know. I can be your guys' international baseball guy.
I like it. I like the pitch too for trying to get involved.
That
I
was
like
good,
that, Yuri.
yeah.
Netherlands. Shout out the Netherlands. That's pretty cool. Didn't know we had
Shout
people
out
out
the
there.
Netherlands.
We met the one guy.
Yeah, we got a guy.
Ron. Was his name Ron?
I don't remember, but I met him
Sorry.
a couple times.
Yes.
Yeah, I apologize, but I hope to meet you again.
Yeah, but I kept tabs on Premier 12 just because I have a friend who's like obsessed with it. He's in Japan. And that tournament means a lot. Apparently, who's the pitching prospect for the Diamondbacks? Yu Min Lin.
Yes,
Apparently
from
diced
Taiwan.
up Japan.
Well, it was Japan's B team.
Still their major.
No, he did. No, I know.
Those are professionals and
And
probably better than what he's playing in the minors right now. So
there was apparently a big scandal because they had him scheduled to pitch the semifinal game, scratched him last second because I think they knew they were going to beat. I don't remember who they were playing, and there was some hoopla around that because they were like dishonest about the way they were going about the game.
yeah,
Yu Min Lin's a fascinating pitching prospect. He tops out in the low 90s. He's got great command of so many pitches and great shapes, but it's like I don't know how far the low velocity is going to take him. I admittedly have him rostered in a few deep dynasty leagues because
I like that.
I love all that nonsense stuff. But yeah, that's as much as I know about it. And it seemed like it was a good time.
yeah. The tournament's pretty cool. It's just I don't think there was any Mets involved, so it was kind of tough for me to care as much as I would. But I know like Carson Williams was out there, Termarr Johnson. Like there were some top prospects in baseball playing, and Rich Hill as well.
Yes, the ancient Rich Hill. All right, so another one here from our guy Jonas.
Hey guys, gonna try and keep this nice and short. This is Jonas from Jersey City. I just want to talk. Maybe you guys can talk about a couple of like the lower, like the less money pitchers. Like I really like Cal Quantrill. I think he can be a good 4 on this team. I don't know. Just talk about pitching in general. Like I also like to know about like the pitching lab a little bit. Like we hear all these things about it, but why is it so good? Thank you guys so much. Love y'all. Peace.
Jonas, did you get into the Google Doc? What happened?
Jonas, love you too. But yeah, I'm happy so many people asked this because we're going to have this episode again Friday. Just quick, again, top of the head. Tomoyuki Sugano, Frankie Montas, Cal Quantrill. I think those are some of the most interesting ones. We're going to have a nice, dense episode Black Friday ready for deals. But I love that everyone wants to know about the bargain pitching prospects. That's amazing. That's the David Stearns effect. That's what happened last year.
That is David Stearns, and it's the Mets up effect too. All right, we got here from Cooper Werback. We'll play this one.
All right, I want to know your opinions on this. How big do you think Juan Soto's contract will be? Just how big do you think it will be? Like 12 years, 13 years, 15 years? It's like anywhere around there. I want to know your predictions on it. Thank you so much.
I'm thinking Soto's going to get 15 years. I like how does he become a free agent at 38? Right? Like that doesn't make sense.
I
to
agree.
me.
I think it'll be 15 years with a 5-year opt out, so he can be a free agent again at 31.
Yes, definitely.
But a lot of the industry people who
and I'm sure there'll be no trade as well.
For sure, as there should be. And I don't even want to trade him.
But
a lot of the industry people seem to think that the contract is not going to be as large as like you and I think, as we've been suggesting, kind of saying that like the 700 doesn't seem plausible.
No.
And again, these are I think Jim Ballin's like standing on the soapbox saying that. And I don't know what he knows. I don't know what his connections are. I'm sure he still has some connections in these front offices, but he's like, it's not. He's like 580 mil, 610 mil. Like that's where he's putting the number for like 14, 15 years. So maybe we are overshooting it a little bit, but to me, it still always comes back to 15 years of 45 million per.
Yeah, and you just can't pay him that much more than Aaron Judge. Like as good as Juan Soto.
That comes out to 675. I think that's probably the highest it can get.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't think he gets 700 unless someone would. That's like almost where the Mets got told you need to do 700 if he's coming there. Otherwise, he's not. And I think that's kind of the only way.
Yeah, maybe that's possible. So we got another one now from our guy Theo. I have to say, Theo, we asked for short voicemails. You left 1 minute and 37 seconds.
Okay, so we're going to see what this goes.
Yeah, we're going to see where this goes. We might not get the whole thing off, so we'll see.
What's good, boys?
2x speed.
Haven't voicemailed in a bit. The last time we did voicemails, I was in India. I got one serious question and I got one fun question for you. Starting with the serious question. I know James loves talking about pitching and the art of the bullpen. And so I want him to make his ideal bullpen. I want 2 7th-inning guys, 2 8th-inning guys, 2 closers. And it can be anyone in the league. Doesn't have to be a Met. And one thing, you can only pick 1 All-Star.
Okay, I might need to do some research. I might get that one prepared for another time. That's a good one. I'll get you that one, Theo. But now we have a second. Should we do the second question from Theo?
Yeah, give him a second one. Yeah.
Now that you got that challenge out of the way. Second thing, James Shiano. It's not following me on Twitter or X, whatever they call it now. So I want to know, James Shiano, what would it take to get a follow on X? And it can literally be anything that's related, not Mets related. I'll do it. I don't know. You can say it on the pod. DM me. I don't really care. I just need to know what the Master James Shiano has to say. See you boys, keep up the great work, keep up the grind. I can't wait for more episodes. I'm gonna do day 1.
There you go.
That's a good question. I don't know. I'll think about this one too. Theo asked 2 really tough questions. 2 questions I'm not sure if I'm prepared to answer.
He was a big James fan over there.
Huge James fan. He went to India too. That's pretty cool.
That's very James Shiano like.
Yeah, it's very James Shiano. Like, I don't know how to figure out which relief pitchers have ever had All-Star appearances because every reliever kind of makes
Baseball
All-Star
Reference,
team
dude. Use the good website. Baseball Reference.
It just has everyone's All-Star on it.
Yeah. You type in a reliever, it'll tell you how many All-Stars. It'll tell you what year they made the All-Star team. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
I'm trying to find the best reliever that's never made an All-Star team. This is going to take a little while to figure out. I'm not going to do this now, but Theo, I'll get you that. I'll get you that at some point.
And I think we have one more here from Thomas Rupert, and let's see what he's got for us.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Will the Mets give Mark Vientos a long-term deal in the upcoming years?
Okay, I actually like that. That's something that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. I don't think it's going to be next year. I don't think it's going to be this upcoming season by any means. But if he puts up another season like he did, there will for sure be talks about an extension or trying to buy out those years for sure.
Totally, but that's just something that doesn't happen very often for especially a guy like Vientos who came through the draft. The vast majority of players that sign arbitration avoiding extensions are players that are not from the United States of America. That's just simply the way it is. I just don't think that happens. I think it'd be cool if it did. I also just probably want to get people ready for it. There could be a tiny bit of comeback on Mark Vientos. I think
there probably should be. I think, and if not, all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, what did we get here?
If not, that's a pretty insane superstar we have. But I can't see any way that he maintains his current swing rate, his chase rate, and his whiff rate. The chase rate was good, just the swing rate and the whiff rate, and doesn't pull back a little bit. There's just simply no chance.
What was his OPS at the end of the year?
Like 860.
Yeah,
I want to say
it could be like 800. That would be a pullback. It'd still be a great year. I think he's a good player. He can do that.
I'm very curious of how pitchers adjust to him and how he adjusts back next year because it was very similar to the Brent Rooker, but he still made less in zone contact than Rooker, and we just saw what the top end of Rooker could be. But we've also seen the bottom end of what Rooker could be.
Yeah,
it's a very similar plate discipline makeup where Rooker does make more contact than Mark Vientos in the zone, where Vientos makes more contact out of the zone. And we've talked in the past about contact out of the zone is not that good. You're right. No. You're much better off just spitting on that pitch, sometimes even swinging through it. Where contact in the zone, if you're taking that swing, you want to make as much contact as possible. Because Vientos' best thing he did this year was realizing which pitches in the zone were the best one to swing at and do damage on. So there's going to be some push and pull of Vientos. I still think he's a really good player. I just don't think there's any chance he signs an extension before we get to like much later in his career.
Yeah, I think we're early on those talks. But that's all we got for this episode, guys. Thank you so much. Remember, Black Friday episode, going over bargain bin pitchers. You get a deal, just like you do on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, whatever it is. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody if we don't talk to you before then. Enjoy some food, watch some football, and hopefully you win bets or whatever you're doing, or you just have a good time. You can follow us on all our social media at Mets'd on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Subscribe to the Mets'd Podcast YouTube channel if you want to see the video version of this. And if you are listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Overcast, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. If you want to be like Theo, you can follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano.
And if you don't like me, you can follow me at GiraffeNeckMark. Apparently, Theo doesn't care about me following him back, but, so he plays favorites, I guess. But
I think I'm just more attainable.
That's fair. You know what? I might have to do that as spite so that you have to follow him now.
That would actually be funny. You follow him and I don't now.
Yeah, wow. And he's really got to chase it or something like that. Maybe this is a crazy game we play. Thank you guys, though. Appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you on Friday. Peace.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys. See you next time. Let's go Mets.